Take two.
Hello, and welcome to our podcast called My Thing, Your Thing. My name is Hannah.
And I'm Donovan.
And this is our second time recording this particular episode.
Yeah, I screwed up.
You didn't screw up. Sometimes computers just eat audio files.
Yeah, but I didn't save them properly, and that's why it ate them.
Okay, so like if we'd had a backup, then we wouldn't be doing this, but also like that wouldn't have stopped the computer from eating the audio file.
I mean, sure. Okay. Yes, you're right. Yes, the dragon was going to eat the goat no matter what. It's just, I wish I had a second goat so that, you know.
So then you could still have milk.
I could still have milk, yeah.
Okay, so up until this point, we have been talking about the James Bond films, and those have kind of been Donovan's things. And
that's the my thing and my thing, your thing.
Yeah. As I was trying to figure out a thing that I wanted to talk about, I came back to something that I always want to talk about. And that is the book series Twilight. So,
woof.
Buckle up, friends. Here we go.
Yeah. What's the way to put this? Sort of a disclaimer to start here. You're free to like whatever you want. You know, we're not trying to make fun of people who like, you know, this podcast is about sort of sharing the my thing in my thing your thing, or the your thing in my thing your thing, is not necessarily something that you love or something that you hate or something. It's something that is a part of you, a part of your history, a part of your, and you want to share it with somebody, warts and all.
Yeah, and sometimes it's something that like just lives in your brain and wriggles there, and sometimes occasionally has to explode out your mouth so that it doesn't explode out your skull pan.
Yeah, to a adoring podcast audience of surely dozens of you. Dozens. Okay, so again, so this is like the second time we're taking at this, and I feel like the first time around I was a little bit more tender. I feel like, I'm sorry, what?
Hold on. Shush. I feel like the first time around I was a little bit more tender towards Twilight. I was a little bit gentler, but because I have done this twice now, like this is the second time that I'm doing it, and also I'm in the middle of reading and noting New Moon, which is my least favorite of the Twilight books.
Sure.
I feel like I came off a little bit harsher when I was writing the script for this.
Good.
So, again, if these are books that you love, it's totally fine. You're not a bad person.
No.
It's in the script. We'll get there. Okay. So, Twilight by Stephanie Meyer was released in 2005. I didn't read it until a few years later when my older sister picked them up, and like many other young women at the time, she was immediately enraptured by the series.
So it's your sister's fault.
Yeah, it's all her fault.
I knew it.
Her opinion on them has since changed, as is mine. Twilight belongs to a very specific genre of books that I don't like, but I am desperate to understand. I don't like Twilight. I hated them at the time, but I was so deeply surrounded by people who were entranced by them. And I use that word intentionally. It seemed to me like people at the time were in a trance about these stupid books.
Ooh, I have a theory.
What?
Is Stephanie Meyer a vampire? Was she glamoring us?
I don't know. She did some like interviews where she was in the sunlight and wasn't sparkling. So also,
well, that's just to throw you off.
You know
obviously.
What? Fair. Yeah, at this point, I'm sure that like makeup technology has gone far enough that like, you know, there's some pretty serious full coverage foundations that she could cover herself with to cover up that sparkle. Over the years, Twilight Fever, I went from a puzzled distaste to outright hatred for the Twilight series. I loathed these books for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I hated seeing them in bookstores. I hated the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I had a deep contempt for anyone who described themselves as Team Edward or Team Jacob. Now, with distance, a deeper sense of empathy, and a different personal philosophy on people liking things, Twilight isn't so bad. I still don't like the series, but I understand that other people do, and it's fine. It's okay if you like Twilight. I'm going to spend hours talking into this mic about why this book isn't good, but listener, I really want you to understand that I don't think you're bad if you like Twilight. You're not dumb if you like Twilight. That's not a belief that I hold, and that's not something that is empirically true about the universe.
Yeah. It's like, you're not dumb if you still like Harry Potter. Like, you know.
Although maybe don't give Jacob any more money.
Don't give Joanne any more money. But, like, you know, it's still okay to have the books, and if you want to occasionally reread them, that's fine. Like, you know, and it's an important part of your childhood. It's an important part of your upbringing. Like, totally understand. But, maybe just don't, buy anything.
Maybe read a different book for a while.
And that's another thing, too. Sorry, maybe we're getting a little off topic here, but as with Twilight and with Harry Potter and with, read other things. I cannot stress enough that no matter what you like, you should also like other things. You should branch out a little bit.
I have consumed a lot of people talking about Twilight.
Yeah.
And there is a specific person that I've been following for a very long time, Cleo Lindell-Jones. Shout out to you. You're hilarious, and I'm a little bit in love with you. But she wrote a lot of stuff about Twilight.
She's also in love with me, so that's not...
Yeah, I actually live with him, and you're somewhere else. I don't know. She wrote a lot about Twilight, and she came up with this theory that Twilight is like a Twinkie. And, it's okay to eat Twinkies. Your diet should not be Twinkie-based, though.
Yeah.
You should eat other things. You should read other books. Stephenie Meyer started writing Twilight in 2003 after she woke up from a dream, quote, about a girl and a boy in a meadow having this conversation about how they were in love and the difficulties in that because he wanted to kill her. He was a vampire. End quote. Yeah.
I mean, I understand why she's putting it that way, but, sorry to all the Kyles out there, but that's every relationship with a Kyle in existence. The dude who's just I just want to violence,
so mad.
I'm
going to direct that anger, and you happen to be right here, so.
Yeah, but I'm going to redirect it at this wall.
Yeah. And that kind of is just the story. Edward's a vampire and Bella is a human, and they are in love. Edward wants to eat Bella, not just because she's a human, but because she smells the most best out of any human to him.
Gross.
She is, quote, his own personal brand of heroin, unquote, an actual line from the book. Look, they're not written well. The grammar is bad. The story is both super slow and blazing fast. Smyer commits crimes with and against commas. It's bad. Mm-hmm. And again, it's okay to like things that are bad. Just please listen to criticism of things you like and consider it. Criticism of a thing you like is not an attack on you.
Yes.
It's fine to like things that are kind of bad. Star Wars is beloved by many, and they have swords made out of light, and they call them lightsabers.
Yeah.
It's kind of dumb.
Yeah. Fundamentally... I think that's what this podcast is about. It is about this thing that is important to you. Maybe you love it. Maybe you used to love it. But you got to be open to the criticism,
Yeah.
We're talking about James Bond movies. I love James Bond movies. They're mostly bad.
Yeah.
There are some good ones, but even the good ones have some pretty awful stuff in them.
And there are parts in this book series that I really like. It's going to take us a while to get there because most of them are in the second or the third and fourth book.
Yeah.
But there are some parts that are genuinely fun, and I like Jacob. I never described myself as Team Jacob because it was always so obvious to me from the very beginning that Edward and Bella were going to be together.
It's what the book's about.
Yeah. I never understood Team Jacob girls because she's not going to end up with him. She's not. All the conventions of storytelling tell me that she is not going to end up with Jacob. You could end up with Jacob. You have about as much chance of ending up with him as Bella does because he's a fictional character and you're presumably a real life human.
Well, we'll get to this, but this is the idea of Bella as being a self-insert kind of thing.
Yes.
That Bella is kind of generic so that you can kind of just think of yourself as her.
Yeah. Me saying that the book is bad, that concludes. Oh, and also that Bella is human and Edward is a vampire and he wants to kill her but is also in love with her. That concludes the spoiler-free review of the book. It's bad. It's about vampires.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about...
at this point, God, that movie... Sorry, not the movie. The book, it came out 20 years ago, and
fully, yes. The first one came out in 2005.
If you wanted to read it by now, I'm sorry, you've read it. And if you haven't read it by now...
pause the podcast, I suppose.
Are you mad about it being spoiled to you? Rosebud's the sled, Darth Vader's his father. I don't know what else to tell you.
It was Earth all along.
Can I just say about spoiler culture for a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
Fucking Christ, people.
Yeah.
Get over it. I'm sorry. I get it. I understand when something new came out and you haven't gotten a chance to see it and somebody spoils it for you. That sucks. And that can really suck the fun out of it if you're the kind of person who cares about spoilers. That's not me, but some people are, and I don't want to ruin that effect for everybody else, but if it's 60 years old or 30 years old, or even if it's been out for a year, at a certain point, you just have to kind of go, okay, yeah, you know what? I heard about how it ended. And maybe you don't want to watch it anymore. Maybe you can somehow find a way to continue existing. I don't know. But, like, y'all chill out, you know?
Also, for me, like, if the spoiler ruins the story, it wasn't that great a story to begin with.
Yes, although I will say, I think that there are specific kinds of stories where the explanation, the ending is the story, you know, like a mystery novel or something that. Like, you know, having a mystery novel spoiled to you before you read it can affect how you feel about it, or if it's like a puzzle box story.
Yeah, okay, I agree with that, because I want you, for the podcast, I want you to read To Say Nothing of the Dog, which is one of my favorite books, and I'm not going to tell you anything about it, except that it's about time travel in the Victorian era.
Yeah, see, and you know, I will go into it not knowing anything. I'm not going to seek anything out, but I don't know, if I talked to somebody else and they had also read it, they'd be like, oh, and this is how the thing ends. I might be mildly disappointed for a second, but then I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to enjoy it anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so the book opens with Bella leaving her mom in Phoenix to go live with her dad in the small town of Forks, Washington.
Apparently it's a real place.
It is a real place. You can go there. And for a while, it was very Twilight themed. There was, in fact, even like an Italian restaurant that was like the one that shows up later in the book.
Oh, no.
I don't know how hard they're leaning on the Twilight for tourism now, but it definitely was. Like, there were like Twilight tours.
Mean, hey, Aberdeen, Washington, like birthplace of Kurt Cobain, that's all they got.
Yeah.
People pay for tours of that town, and it is not. Like, there's nothing.
There's not a lot there,
yeah.
So Forks, Washington, dubbed by the book as the rainiest place in the U.S. It's not. Depending on how you measure it, it is either like a city in Hawaii or a city in upstate New York. Like, yeah. Or if you want to go like the most overcast place, it's Anchorage, Alaska. Anchorage, Alaska sees the fewest days of clear skies.
That makes sense to me because, one, it's further north, so it's probably a little colder, but it's still that same kind of like climate, that sort of Pacific Northwest kind of.
So Bella is going to go live with her dad, and already I want to stop and talk about something else. A recurring theme for me in these books is that everybody else, aside from Edward and Bella, are way more interesting than Edward and Bella are.
Yeah, I dear readers or dear listeners, I have only watched the movie, and only with the riff tracks. Like, I was not paying very close attention. But the dad is my favorite character in the movie. Movie
Charlie is better than Book Charlie, I will say that. Book Charlie kind of sucks a little bit, but like Movie Charlie is well, Book Charlie is pretty good too. But
yeah, A-cab except Charlie.
A-cab except Charlie. We don't get any information on Bella's parents, on how Charlie and Renee met. We don't know anything about how they fell in love. We don't know if like he was from Forks and she was passing through and they fell in love and got married, and then like she decided she didn't like it there anymore. We don't know if he was the sheriff or in law enforcement or anything like that when they first met.
He was a Forks boy, she was a Spoons girl. Can I make it any more obvious?
All we know is that Renee hates Forks and left with baby Bella. Like, she straight up took the kid and left. And Charlie stayed in Forks, and it crushed his heart. And he has never been with anyone since. And he's lived in the same house that they were in. That was like their marital house. And Bella's room didn't change, except that he switched the crib for a bed.
Men will do anything except go to therapy.
Yeah. Men will do anything, including develop a slight man crush on the mysterious new doctor in town instead of going to therapy. Bella went back for the summer until she was like, I hate Forks also, and I don't want to go to Forks anymore, so we're going to California instead. And then he did that. Like, they went to California for 2 weeks for vacation instead of her spending the whole summer with her dad. Charlie really got like the shit end of the stick on this parenting deal. But Bella also hates Forks. But she's going back because Renee, her mom, is married to this guy who is a minor league baseball player.
A minor league baseball player. Listener, you must understand, minor league baseball players, like, if you're not like a top draft pick that's going to play in the pros like next year, minor league baseball players make like $30,000 a year. They make nothing. They make no money.
And he's like a traveling one too. So like Renee wants to be able to like follow him around, but like she can't because she's got a teenage daughter at home. So Bella's like, it's fine. I'll go live with Dad in Forks, a place I hate so much. And then you can go around with your boyfriend, with Phil.
You can go to Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Get some delicious Altoona pizza.
Yeah.
And that's like the beginning, is that she's going to Forks and she hates Forks and she's always complaining about how much she hates Forks. And her mom is like, you don't have to go. And she's like, no, I'm gonna. And it's...
You can travel with us to Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Bella really infantilizes her mom. There's like a line where she says something like, she's got Phil now, so the bills will probably get paid. Like...
Her bills must not be very high.
No, it's in like paid on time. Like, because Bella was the one who was paying bills.
Oh, God.
And it's kind of difficult.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh.
Because Bella is not a super reliable narrator when it comes to how other people like act. It's difficult to tell if she was parentified or if she parentified herself. It's difficult to tell if like Renee actually is like a shambling mess of an adult, or if Bella was just like, well, I'm just gonna do it because who else is going to do it? Ha ha ha.
Didn't you say later on that like Bella was the one who always cooked the meals, right?
Yeah, Bella always cooked for Renee. Renee was apparently a terrible cook, and then that carries over with Charlie. Bella puts herself in charge of cooking for Charlie, even though he has had 17 years of having to cook for himself.
Yeah.
Like, he's an adult. He goes fishing and cooks his own fish that he catches. It's fine. He's fine. He
knows what's up.
There's a bit later, God, I'm already getting so far ahead of myself. There's a bit later where she's like, I'm not going to be home for dinner, Dad, so I left some cold cuts in the fridge. Motherfucker, he's an adult.
Yeah, he can figure it out.
Worst case scenario, he's just going to go hang out at Billy Black's. Like, it'll be fine. Anyway, Bella hates Forks and the rain and the cold and the fact that it's a small town that her dad is the sheriff of. Bella gets off the plane in Washington and greets her dad, and after they hug, he has to steady her. And again, I have to stop for a second.
Oh, jeez.
Smyer is not a good writer. And one of the things that she doesn't do well is show, don't tell. She's constantly telling you things. She is telling you that Edward is a good person. She is telling you how happy Edward and Bella are together. And, like, she doesn't really show those things. However, right here at the very beginning, like, Bella and Charlie hug, and then there's a line about Charlie having to, like, steady her as she, like, gets off the plane. Because Bella's very clumsy. And so this is... I don't want this to be 2 hours of me ragging on this book. There are some good things in here. So this, right at the beginning, where Stephanie Meyer is trying to set up that Bella is clumsy, that's good writing.
Sure.
You did it. You get 1 gold star. Yay. Congratulations.
All right.
So Bella's dad gets her a truck. It is I think it's like a 53 Chevy pickup truck.
1953?
Or 57.
Wow,
it's an old truck.
I mean, that's vintage. At a certain point, it's not even like it's just a beat up old truck. It's like hey, maybe you should get that restored and take it to a car show.
Well, it kind of is restored because it was Billy Black's truck, and Jacob is the one who's been taking care of it because Jacob's very good at cars, and so he's basically restored the entire thing.
He's good at cars and sit-ups.
Nice.
Not
just yet. That's not until the halfway through the next book. But right now he's still like a gangly teenager.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, but you've got a point there. Like, Charlie's dad gets this truck essentially for free because it's so old, but also like, yeah, that's a vintage truck.
Yeah, if it's from the 50s and it's still running, like that's probably worth something.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know much about cars, as Hannah will say she doesn't know anything about car breeds.
Nope.
But like, yeah, if it's a 57 Chevy, that's like, you say 57 Chevy in like a song written in the 70s to talk about how cool you are.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Bella does say one thing at one point. She says something about like slamming the door and a bunch of like rust flakes falling off. So like maybe the body is not that great.
Yeah, I guess if it's rusted out in the body, you know, sure.
The point is it's super loud, but it is her truck. And she didn't have to spend any money on it.
Yeah, we have to set up that it's loud.
Yeah, it's very loud. She talks all the time about how it roars to life, and it's like turning it on in the parking lot. It's very loud. It's a loud truck.
Gotcha.
So Bella goes to her first day of school, and everyone is all super interested in the new girl because this is a small town where everybody has known each other since kindergarten. There's someone in every class that attaches her to Bella and like walks her around, and Bella doesn't bother to remember anybody's names for like 3 days. It's kind of shitty. Thought crimes aren't real, and you can think whatever you want about the people around you in the safety of your own head, but Bella's inner monologue... What?
Not when you're a protagonist in a first-person book.
But Bella's inner monologue, but listening to Bella's inner monologue about how much all of her peers suck and are annoying makes me hate her.
Yeah.
Also, like, hey, the thoughts you think become the house you build. And if you get in the habit of thinking unkind things about the people around you, you start treating them shitty. Empathy is a muscle. You gotta exercise it. And now for an example of terrible grammar. Hold on, please. I've read this whole book and I put notes in it, and there are a lot of them. So when I was saying before that Stephenie Meyer commits crimes with and against commas, here we go.
Oh, God.
So this is in the lunchroom. This is the first time that she is getting a glimpse of the Cullens.
Right.
Who are they? I asked the girl from my Spanish class whose name I had forgotten. Bella sucks. As she looked up to see who I meant, dash, although already knowing, comma, probably, comma, from my tone, dash, suddenly he looked at her, comma, the thinner one, comma, the boyish one, comma, the youngest, comma, perhaps. He looked at my neighbor for a fraction of a second, comma, and then his dark eyes flickered to mine. What the fuck? That's too many commas. What the shit is that parenthetical doing there?
Yeah, that's really bad, actually.
You have said before that it sounds like Stephenie Meyer is doing like a stream of consciousness kind of
writing.
Yeah,
she's trying to it sounds to me like she's trying to put you in Bella's head.
Yeah.
And put you in this mindset of where she's thinking through this situation.
Yeah.
Which I understand, and you can kind of deploy that, sparingly to maybe get something across, but she does not do it sparingly, and every single time it's confusing.
Hey, what the fuck does this sentence mean?
Yeah, it means, what does it mean?
Who looked at who? Which she? What is that parenthetical doing? We are 19 pages in.
Yeah.
This book is almost 400 pages.
Oy.
Oy, indeed.
It's such a sunny day, such a sunny day, such a sunny day.
No, I'm going to skip that.
I'm looking on the back and I'm seeing all the testimonials. Editor's choice, best book of the decade, best book of the year, hot list. And I'm just like,
secret love and hushed affection. I wish they would hush the fuck up.
Secret love. That's right. It's a secret from everyone except for everybody.
Yeah, everybody. By the end of the book, everybody knows that they're dating.
Yeah, it's not secret.
My neighbor giggled in embarrassment looking at the table like I did. That's Edward and Emmett Cullen and Rosalie and Jasper Hale. The one who left was Alice Cullen. They all lived together with Dr. Cullen and his wife, she said under her breath. I glanced sideways at the beautiful boy, comma, who was looking at his tray now, comma, picking a bagel to pieces with long, comma, pale fingers. His mouth was moving very quickly, comma, his perfect lips barely opening. The other three still looking away, yet I felt he was speaking quietly to them. Strange, comma, unpopular names, comma, I thought, the kind of names grandparents had. Hey, no, they're not.
Yeah, Edward.
God, who's ever heard of an Edward before?
Yeah, no, the names should have been Gertrude and,
Yeah, so I looked it up. There's a really cool website called Engaging Data where you can, put names in and it will show you, the popularity chart of when they have been used. Mm-hmm. Edward and Alice are still pretty common. Rosalie and Jasper are not super old-fashioned.
Yeah, Jasper, I believe. I absolutely believe that Jasper
Emmett was the one that I was like, yeah, that's a bit old-fashioned.
Sure,
that kind of sounds like a guy who lived down in the holler in, the 1800s. But... while they all dipped in popularity in the 80s when these characters are supposed to have been born, they've always been fairly popular.
Yeah, Edward is not a weird name.
Yeah,
It's just not.
They don't sound that old-fashioned. Some names I would consider to be old-fashioned would be Walter, Harold, Albert, or Florence, Lillian, and Ethel.
Yeah.
Also, hey, Bella is pretty shitty to Jessica, a theme that will continue throughout the series. Just, I feel so bad for... I don't like Jessica, but I feel bad for Jessica. It really sucks how mean she is to her. Especially because I'm in the middle of New Moon where, Jessica is kind of ignoring Bella because of a shitty thing that Bella did, and Bella keeps being like, Jessica, that bitch, in her head. And I'm like, girl, it's your fault. It's your fault.
Maybe that's realistic.
Yeah,
teenage girls.
Yeah, I will say, yeah, it's a little bit realistic teenage girl.
How old was Smyer when she wrote this book?
29.
29.
She started writing 29 in 2003 when she started writing the books.
Interesting.
Okay, so it's after lunch, and Bella goes to bio, and oh my god, she has the most perfect, beautiful boy in the entire world is in her bio class. It's Edward. In the movies, this is when she like walks into the room and he's sitting there and there's like a taxidermied owl behind him and the wings like frame perfectly behind him to make him look like an angel. And then for some reason, even though it's fucking January, there's like a fan behind her that like blows her, and then he like stiffens up because he smells her for the first time. She smells so good. He immediately wants to eat her. Okay, friends, if you didn't know this, there is a book called Midnight Sun that is just Twilight from Edward's perspective, and like he talks about it a little bit later in this book, but in that book he's talking about how the first time he smelled her, he was literally calculating how many people he would have to kill in order to eat her, which is a thing that like that tension does not come through in this book. I never once believe that Edward genuinely wants to kill and eat Isabella Swan. I just don't.
Also, can I just recontextualize the statement that Hannah just said there? A 100-year-old man who is an immortal, superpowered monster being saw a 16-year-old girl walk in and was like, I want to eat her. How many people do I have to murder? And we're supposed to root for them to get together. As a story, like
yep.
Think of just, he's for a moment just think that he's not a vampire. He's just a guy. No, we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no. The whole time in class, Edward is trying to sit as far away as possible, and Bella is absolutely captivated by Edward. But the next day, he isn't in school. He fucking dips. And it's because we find out in Midnight Sun and also later in this that he left. He went to Alaska. He was like, I'm going to put all of my family in danger. I can't be anywhere near this bitch. I have to go. So he like fucked all the way off to Alaska.
Fair.
In fact, he's out for quite a while. It's like a couple of weeks or something. But eventually he does come back. And he starts this weird thing where he keeps telling Bella that she should stay away from him. But also he keeps like being near her.
Yeah.
It's very much like, go away, come back. Go away, no, come back. That is, in fact, what the first 50 Shades of Grey movie was referencing, this exact thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That sucks.
It does.
Can I just say, that sucks.
So he like the only class that they have together is bio, and so at one point they have like a bio lab that they're doing, and because Edward is 109 years old, 104 years old, 100 and something.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Because Edward is over 100 years old and has been through high school like 8 times at this point, and also Bella is very smart, please trust me. They finish their bio lab early, and so then they have this conversation.
Why do they keep doing high school? Why would you do that? High school is literally the worst time of your life.
Forks must be a difficult place for you to live, he mused. You have no idea, I muttered darkly. He looked fascinated by what I had said. For some reason I couldn't imagine. His face was such a distraction that I tried not to look at it any more than courtesy absolutely demanded. Why did you come here then? No one had asked me that, not straight out like he did, demanding. It's complicated. I think I can keep up, he pressed. I paused for a long moment and then made the mistake of meeting his gaze. His dark gold eyes confused me, and I answered without thinking. My mother got me married, I said. That doesn't sound so complex, he disagreed, but he was suddenly sympathetic. When did that happen? Last September. My voice sounded sad, even to me. And you don't like him, Edward surmised, his tone still kind. No, Phil's fine. Too young maybe, but nice enough. Why didn't you stay with them? I couldn't fathom his interest, but he continued to stare at me with penetrating eyes as if my dull life story was somehow vitally important. Phil travels a lot. He plays ball for a living. I half smiled. Have I heard of him? He asked, smiling in response. Probably not. He doesn't play well. Strictly minor league. He moves around a lot. Anyway, it goes on like this for a while.
It's America's pastime.
I wanted to read some of that partially for you to get an idea of what Edward sounds like when he talks, because later we'll be told that he talks with an old-fashioned turn of phrase, And no, he doesn't.
I like to believe he has a mid-Atlantic accent.
Yes. And also because we learn later that Edward can read people's minds, but he can't read Bella's mind. And so he's asking her all of these questions because he's not used to not understanding her. And he also keeps jumping to conclusions about Bella because he's used to like knowing what people are thinking and not just what they're saying. I think that's good writing. I think it's good that Edward keeps being like, oh, I know the answer to this because he's used to knowing the answer to things. Not the bit about him not actually using old-fashioned language. That's dumb and bad.
Yeah.
But again, I want to point out when I think that something good happens in this book.
He's a ball player, you say?
He's a ball
Anyone
player,
I've heard of.
Yeah.
I do love baseball. It's America's pastime, don't you know? Hop on my back, Spider Monkey.
Unfortunately, that doesn't happen in the book. I wish it did.
I know.
Okay, and now for an absolutely insane set of sentences. My stomach twisted as I realized what he must have meant. He must see how absorbed I was by him, semicolon. He must not want to lead me on, ellipsis. So we couldn't even be friends, ellipsis, because he wasn't interested in me at all. Of course he wasn't interested in me, comma. I thought angrily, comma, my eyes stinging, dash, a delayed reaction to the onions, period. I wasn't interesting. And he was interesting, comma, and brilliant, comma, and mysterious. Hold on. And he was... period, interesting, ellipsis, and brilliant, ellipsis, and mysterious, ellipsis, and perfect, ellipsis, and beautiful, ellipsis, and possibly able to lift full-size vans with one hand.
Oh, he actually can do that.
He can. I stop doing that to ellipses. It's too many.
That's torturing ellipses.
It hurts me personally.
Yeah.
So Edward, it's like rainy and cold and the parking lot is slick and some guy in a van named Tyler slides across the parking lot and almost crushes Bella, and then Edward is there, like he's super fast there, and he saves her from the van, but the way that it's written is really confusing because he like saves her twice somehow from the same van, and it's better in the movie.
What?
Yeah, like I don't want to go back and read it, but like she describes like being something flinging against her and then the van coming at her again, and then her legs are underneath a tan car, but he like lifts the car and pulls her legs out from under. It's very confusing in the book. It makes more sense in the movie where it's just like slam, like van, slam, Edward, bam, hand, smash, and we're done.
Oh. Okay.
It doesn't matter. Edward, the point is that like Edward got across the parking lot superhuman fast and also stopped a van that was about to crush Bella.
I understand what she was trying to do with that scene, but and maybe this is just a weird conception of a vampire, but like if I were going to write a book about a vampire, even if it was about a vampire and a human being falling in love, my first like weird interaction that makes her think that he might not be everything he seemed would not be him saving her with superpowers. Like that seems like such an odd thing.
The fact that like the Cullens keep getting like whole trays full of food at like lunch and then not eating anything, or sometimes they'll sit there with no food in front of them, you would think that would be like more of a tip off of like, what the fuck are these people's deal with food?
Literally what you would do with that situation is you would say, hey, yeah, we're part of like a weird religion and we can't eat the food that they serve here. Yeah. It's fine. Like, don't worry about it.
But they get food and they'll just like sit there with their food and then they'll throw an entire plate of uneaten food away.
That's wasteful.
It is. It really is. It's kind of funny. I just saw this recently. There was apparently a thing where Jason Rathbone, the guy who plays Jasper, said that for one of the cafeteria scenes, the set dressing people were like, what do you want in front of you to be like your fake lunch? And he was like, leave one baby carrot for Edward. So there's just like a baby carrot like on the table. And you can find screenshots of this. It's great. Amazing. Okay, so yeah, he saves her from a van. They are continuing to like kind of be in classes and around each other, and Bella continues to think unkind things about the people around her. At one point in bio, they have like a blood typing lab where you're supposed to like figure out your blood type, and Edward is mysteriously not there that day. But also, Bella faints at the sight and smell of blood. Like, she can't be around it.
Okay, all right, I get it.
So like when she smells it, she like starts to go faint, and then like, you know, I think Mike Newton like walks her to the nurse's office because she's about to pass out, but like Edward intercepts.
Who is Mike Newton?
He's another guy. It doesn't matter.
All right. Why did you say his first and last name then?
Because he's like minorly important. He's like, he'll be a little bit more important in the next book, but like he's one of the guys that like was immediately like, ooh, new girl, and then he's like flirting with Bella a whole lot, and Bella is like,
oh, I see. Okay.
All these dumb boys like me so much, and I don't want to be with any of them because they're all so dumb. And he's one of the guys who wants to be with her. He dates Jessica for a while, and then he tries to get with her again in the next book. Anyway. So he's trying to do like the chivalrous thing of like, oh, you're like not feeling well, I'm gonna walk you to the nurse's office. And then Edward is like, no, I'm going to walk her to the nurse's office. So he takes her to the nurse's office and they have this conversation.
Oh God.
Oh no, Edward muttered. Go out to the office, Bella. I looked up at him bewildered. Trust me, go. I spun and caught the door before it closed, darting out of the infirmary. I could feel Edward right behind me. You actually listened to me. He was stunned. I smelled blood, I said, wrinkling my nose. Lee wasn't sick from watching other people like me. People can't smell blood, he contradicted. Boy, fuck you.
You absolutely can.
You can. You so can. It's one of the like more... It's one of those things that is like a common writing thing, like at a massive crime or after like a battlefield, the metallic tang of blood in the air.
Yeah.
I can smell blood.
I can smell blood.
It's a thing that people can do.
Yeah.
You're not special about smelling blood because you're a vampire, Edward.
My sense of smell is garbage, and even I can smell blood.
It's like, and also like... Stephanie Meyer has had kids, so I know that her uterus functions. Girl, you can smell blood. I know that you can.
What a fucking weird way to put that, Hannah.
Not the weirdest way we're going to talk about period blood during this series.
Okay. Oh no. Oh, I think I know about that.
Yeah,
oh,
it's gross. So then, like, after that whole thing, when Edward basically, like, dazzles the front office lady into letting Bella go home because it's not glamour, it's dazzle. I
hate that.
I know. Bella at one point is like, you're dazzling, and he's like, do I dazzle you? And she's like, frequently. I'm sure her intonation was different. But like, yeah, Edward, like, it's the thing where like all of the Cullens can just kind of get away with whatever they want because like school admin lets them do whatever. Anyway, so like he talks the front desk lady into being like, yeah, Bella, you can go home. So she's trying to leave.
I mean, she's like a well-behaved kid with good grades, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's also the sheriff's kid. Like, it's not like she's going to go out and, like, find a meth house or whatever. She's going to go home.
I mean, if it's, rural Washington, you probably could.
Oh, yeah, she absolutely could, yes. Well, maybe not. No, they wouldn't eat them. I was going to say maybe not here. Like, probably the Cullens would have, like, eaten them. But, like, I don't think that they would have. They don't. Oh, hey, here's the thing. I don't know that I wrote this in the script, but the Cullens don't eat people. They are, quote-unquote, vegetarian vampires, meaning that they only eat animal blood.
Yeah, yes.
Which is also a thing that, like, Carlisle invented. Like, no other vampire ever thought of not eating humans. And, like, that animals were also an option. Any fucking way.
Yeah, you would think that someone would have thought that.
Yeah, somebody, yeah. But, like, okay, oh, God.
Perhaps Angelus.
Here I am, continuing to talk about not Edward and Bella because they're not that interesting. But it doesn't seem like vampire society is very well centralized. Like, there are a couple of covens that are, like, in charge of things. But it's not like there's a bunch of communication between vampires, and it's not really well explained why that is, if they're like very territorial, if you can't have a bunch of vampires who are around each other that like drink human blood, or like what the fuck is going on with that. It's just like there's one point where Edwards is explaining that they don't know how vampires happen, but they think it has something to do with the venom that they have. And it's like, why don't you know that?
Yeah,
some of you have been alive for like 600 years. Why don't you know that?
Yeah, Carlisle's a doctor. He's obviously studied medicine.
Yeah, you would think that he would at some point put some of his venom like underneath the microscope and be like, what the fuck's happening here?
And I think we kind of mentioned this before when we talked about this before as well. Like, there's no downside to being a vampire.
Oh yeah, we'll get there with that.
And so like, why aren't everybody vampire? Like, what? I understand they want to have like humans to eat, but why aren't there more vampires? Why isn't the world run by vampires? It doesn't make any sense that they wouldn't be.
We'll get there. So Bella is leaving, and Edward is still trying to talk to her. And she says, Mike Schmike, I muttered, preoccupied by the way he said you and I liked it more than I thought I should. We were near the parking lot now. I veered left towards my truck. Something caught my jacket, yanking me back. Where do you think you're going? He asked, outraged. He was gripping a fistful of my jacket in one hand. Hey, friends. If you're in an argument with someone and you try to walk away from them and they prevent you from doing that, as soon as you're safe to, get the fuck away from them. That's not a person who has your best interest at heart. It's not good that he did that. It is an early sign of an abusive or controlling partner. It's not romantic that he wanted to keep talking to her. It is something that should like put fear in her heart.
Especially when he says he like grabs her and is like angry.
Where do you think you're going? He said, outraged. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, no.
I'm going home. You got me out of school. I'm going home.
You, 16-year-old child, me, 100-year-old man, where do you think you're going?
So Edward then insists on driving Bella home, even though she's perfectly capable. And she's like, no, I'm going to drive myself home. I'm fine. And he's like, no, I'm going to drive you home. And she's like, no, I'm fine. I want to drive myself home.
I got a little grossed out by blood. I'm okay.
Yeah. Like, I'm not smelling blood anymore. There's no blood around me. I've taken several deep breaths. My head is clear. I would like to go home. And he's like, no, I've got you. He like basically doesn't like physically force her, but like he makes her get into his car and he drives her home. And then she's like, what the fuck, like, what about my truck though? And he's like, oh, we'll get it to you. And she's like, okay. So then she's at home and she's like even through like the rain on the roof, she was like, I would hear my truck coming into the driveway, but at one point I got up and like looked outside and my truck was there. And it fills me with so much delight to think of vampires carrying this fucking truck into her front yard.
Yeah, the implication being that a couple of vampires like carried over their head a truck is pretty fucking funny. Like, I gotta say,
obviously they probably like drove it some amount of the way and then carried it the rest. But
why though? Why not just drive it in?
Why not just drive? Because he wants to do like the spooky Batman thing of just like, oh my god, now it's there.
But why? Why would he do that?
Because he's dumb. And also I want to know which vampire helped him do it. I think either Alice or Emmett or the both of them, because Emmett would think that it would be funny and fun to do, and Alice would be like, of course, she's my new best friend, I love her forever.
Oh, Alice.
This is a moment of joy in this stupid book.
Yes it is. It's pretty amazing.
So in trying to like make some amount of friends, Bella is going to go with like Mike Newton and Jess and Angela and a bunch of other people whose names only kind of matter, to hang out at La Push, which is the Quillette Reservation right outside of Forks, Washington. So it's like the one weekend when like it's going to be mostly sunny, so everybody's going to go to the beach there. And this is where she meets Jacob for the first time in this book, who is Billy Black, her father's friend's son. And also, like, she knew his older sisters, which are mentioned and then occasionally mentioned off screen somewhere, but, like, they're not ever in any of the books, I don't think.
Wait, hold on. Whose older sisters?
Jacob's older sisters.
Oh, okay.
Rachel and Rebecca.
Right.
So Bella goes to hang out with some other people from school at the beach at the Push Reservation, where she meets Jacob for the first time in this book. They talk, and Jacob tells her some stories about the Cold Ones, which is like, he tells her like old tribal stories, and calls them like the Cold Ones, and says that like they started a war with like the tribe, but then eventually they like signed a peace treaty. And Jacob straight up calls them vampires, and it takes 100 more pages for Bella to be like, Edward's a vampire.
Yeah, she's not very attentive, is she?
She is not. Yes?
Well, she left the Cold Ones in the fridge for her dad. I'm cutting that out. That's not nearly funny enough.
No, it has to be in.
No.
Please, I needs it. Oh, also, hey, I just underlined this. He was someone I could easily be friends with. Jacob was always going to be her friend. They were never going to be romantically involved. It's page 127 of the first book. Okay, so this is when she first starts talking about Edward. And the way that he sometimes spoke, with unfamiliar cadences and phrases that better fit the style of a turn-of-the-century novel than that of a 21st century classroom. No, he doesn't. You have heard me use some of the words that Edward says. No, he doesn't. He sometimes manages to talk like I did after I watched a lot of like Turner Classic Movie Channel with my dad on a Friday night, but like he never actually sounds like he came from the 1900s.
Bella, you're a real cat's pajamas.
Real bee's knees. Bella, you're my best gal. Let's go down to the cinema.
Yeah.
Taking a picture show.
I'll bring 2 dimes in case we want to see a second one.
Get an old sarsaparilla. Also, I don't know where to put this, but Bella keeps having weird prophetic dreams. It happens throughout the entire series where, like, she has
that's a fantasy trope.
Yeah.
Fantasy trope, your protagonist has to have prophetic dreams of the future, or they have to be telling in some way. That's all fantasy.
You would think that at some point she would connect the dots.
No, she's dumb.
She's very dumb.
She's inattentive. Sorry,
she's not
dumb. She's inattentive. We talked about this.
I have a whole running thing for the next book about how inattentive Bella is, including to her own body. Oh boy, is that gonna be fun.
Yeah. You mentioned how she like constantly is just like, oh, it turns out I was screaming. Yeah. Like, what?
There's a line, I couldn't find my own lips. Girl, they're on your face. I hope. That's not a sexual thing. I'm just like, what if her lips got up and walked away because they were also tired of her bullshit?
Oh my god.
Right, so she's like having this dream. And here's another... Stephanie Meyer is a bad writer and is not great with like subject and adverb agreement. That's not what it is. She's not good at like keeping like the characters that she's writing about straight, like tagging pronouns to characters.
Oh, yeah.
There was one thing I was sure of, comma, if I was sure of anything. The Dark Edward in my dream last night. I'm so sorry. No, we can't put this in. We have to, I'll tell you later, or maybe just right now.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of there's a thing with the Sherlock fandom where like there were a bunch of people who were like really mad about like Sherlock being a top and called him a dark fuck prince. And I'm so sorry. This cannot be in the podcast.
What? No. You can't just dole out the gold like that and then tell me to cut it out. What are you talking about? A dark fuck prince?
There's a Sarah Zed video about it. Like, please just watch that. So Dark Edward made me think of that for a second.
I'm delighted right now.
Okay.
This is amazing.
The Dark Edward in my dream last night was a reflection only of my fear of the word Jacob had spoken, comma, and not Edward himself. Even so, comma, when I'd screamed out in terror at the werewolf's lunge, comma, it wasn't fear for the wolf that brought the cry of no to my lips. It was fear that he would be harmed. Dash. Even as he called to me with sharp-edged fangs, comma, I feared for him. And I knew that in that I had my answer. I didn't know if there was ever a choice, comma, really. Was already in too deep. Now that I knew, dash, if I knew, dash, I could do nothing about my frightening secret, because when I thought of him, comma, his voice, comma, his hypnotic eyes, comma, the magnetic force of his personality, comma, I wanted nothing more than to be with him right now. Even if, ellipses, but I couldn't think it. Which him? Which him? The Dark Edward or the werewolf? Which him? They both have fangs. Which him?
Okay, all right. Take a deep breath. I'm going to ask you to take another one. Okay. So she had a dream.
She had a dream that there was a werewolf in the forest and that Dark Evil Edward was there, and one of them lunged at the other one, but I cannot tell which one did, and I don't know who she's worried for.
And it seems like she was worried that Edward would be the one that was hurt, and that's why she was upset. I think right there, as you said before, the book is already telling you Edward's the guy that she's going to be with. Yeah. Like, you know, even this is before we knew that Jacob would be a werewolf, obviously, but like, we had to know at this point. There was never a point where it could be the other way, although I am excited about the cuck tent.
Oh, yeah, we'll get there. But yeah,
I'm always excited about the cuck tent, though.
It's just very much like the writing doesn't make sense on the page. I can't tell who jumped at who, and I can't tell who she is afraid for.
Yeah, it's like you can kind of like figure it out, but it is not clear while you're reading.
You could interpret it either way or no ways, and you could throw the whole book into a deep hole in the ocean and then move on with your life. Unfortunately, I have more words to read.
Hannah, you did this to yourself.
I did. So it's a sunny day. Bella is very excited about that because she loves the sun and she hates rainy forks.
She lives in the wrong place.
I opened the window, surprised when it opened silently, without sticking, not having opened it in who knows how many years, and sucked in the relatively dry air. We find out in Midnight Sun that Edward opened her window and then came back later with oil so that he could more quietly open his window so that he could sneak into her room at night and watch her sleep from the rocking chair in the corner of the room.
A psychopathic thing to do, by the way.
Gross. Also later, because it's a sunny day, she's like, after school, she like lays a blanket out and she's like reading. And she wants something to distract herself, so she's like trying to read like Jane Austen, but they're all of the protagonists are named like Edmund and stuff, and he's like, I can't get away from Edward at all. So eventually she just falls asleep and takes a nap, and then it turns out that Edward was there too, watching her sleep. He was watching her from the trees, and then he came out from the trees and was like literally right in front of her face, like breathing in her sleeping breath. And she like talks in her sleep and she says something. I don't remember what she says because I don't read Midnight Sun and I don't plan on doing it. But he was there watching her sleep. Ew, gross, ew.
Yeah, that's not great.
So Bella's been in school for like a couple months at this point, and there's like a Sadie Hawkins dance essentially, and all of the boys are like, oh, Bella, are you going to ask me to the dance? And Bella's like, no.
Who are you?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Your name is. But she wants to go to Port Angeles because she needs a book about vampires because she doesn't trust the internet about vampires. So she's going to go with Jessica and Angela so that they can pick out their dresses and she can be in there, like hang out with them and then go find a bookstore.
Yeah. I mean, if it's 2005, it's not like you're going to find a National Geographic article about vampires. So, like, I can understand being hesitant to believe what you're reading in the internet about vampires and being like, maybe a book will help. But then again, I don't...
Well, also, so, like, when she was searching online, she kept finding a bunch of, like, conflicting stuff because every culture has something that could be called a vampire, and they all behave differently. Here, like, this is a thing that I kind of want to talk about, is that, like, people made fun of Twilight for, like, our vampires are different. Everybody's vampires are different.
Yeah, no, everybody's vampires are different. I always felt like the thing that people made fun of the Twilight vampires for was that, like, the sparkling in the sun is the lamest thing possible.
Yeah.
And yet, like, we're supposed to find them scary. Like, we're supposed to believe that Edward is scary and that he's gonna hurt Bella, but also he sparkles in the sun.
He sparkles in the sun, and he has a favorite meadow, and he takes her to her favorite meadow, and that's where she sees him sparkle in the sun.
Yeah, it doesn't... There's no
tension.
There's no tension there.
There's no tension in the entire book that that Bella might actually get eaten by Edward. I don't believe it for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
But this is great, and it made us laugh a lot.
It make us laugh a lot?
Fuck you. But this is great, and it made us laugh a lot.
Okay.
I had no trouble finding the bookstore, but it wasn't what I was looking for. The windows were full of crystals, dream catchers, and books about spiritual healing. I didn't even go inside. Through the glass, I could see a 50-year-old woman with long gray hair worn straight down her back, clad in dresses right out of the 60s, smiling welcomingly from behind the counter. I decided that was one conversation I could skip. There had to be a normal bookstore in town.
Bella, you dumb bitch.
You dumb bitch.
That is the exact store that would have a book about vampires. If this were an actual book that was written by a competent author, that would be, you would go to the normal bookstore first and you wouldn't find anything. And then you would go to the weird spiritual bookstore, and then on a dusty tome in the back corner, there would be, the grimoire on vampires.
Yeah.
No one's bought this book since 1908.
Yeah. Vampire spelled with a Y.
Yes, like that. Come on,
that bit makes me laugh. So she goes off to find another bookstore, and then she wanders around for a bit, and then she somehow managed to run into some guys who are like the only skeezy guys in town.
Yeah, there are no other skeezy guys.
No other skeezy guys, and they are aiming to harass and potentially assault her.
Yes.
But wait, here comes Edward in the shiny Volvo of justice.
Oh, gross.
So he like swoops in and saves her and then like takes her off, and he's like driving along, and he's like, you're in shock, we have to get food in you. So he like takes her to this Italian restaurant.
You know what? To be fair, when I save women from being assaulted, I also take them to an Italian restaurant.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. If someone was being like really shitty to me and you were like, let's go get some mushroom ravioli, I'd be like, yeah, I'm down. Actually, yeah. That sounds great.
If you like, if after we got shot by those paintballs last year, if I had been like, let's go to Carfagna's,
I would have been like, fuck yeah, carbs. You'll save me.
Oh man.
So yeah, they go to this Italian restaurant, and Bella is like immediately very jealous of both the hostess and the waitress, because they both clearly are looking at Edward and be like, oh, he's so hot, but like Edward only has eyes for Bella. Yeah. He doesn't even notice them. And so then they have this long conversation, and Edward lets slip that he can read people's minds, but not that he's a vampire. I don't know why. Especially because he like asks her questions, and later she's just like she's like, you're a vampire. And he's like, yeah, I am.
So at this point,
yeah,
she like he can like lift a car.
He can move super fast. He can lift a car,
and he can read minds. I mean, I'll be honest. If I met somebody who could move super fast, lift a car, and read minds, my first thought would not be vampires, to be fair.
Would it be, damn, I took too many gummies?
No, that would probably be like my third thought. My first thought would be like X-Men.
Oh, fair, yeah.
Second thought would be MK Ultra government.
Oh, yeah.
And then third would be, oh, I'm high.
So on the ride home after Italian food, Bella realizes that Edward is driving at like 120 miles an hour. And Bella freaks out because that's an insane speed to be driving. And Edward is like, don't worry about it. I've never gotten a ticket. I've got like a built-in like radio scanner. And that's not the point. The point is that when you're driving 120 miles an hour and the roads are very slick because you live in the middle of rainy nowhere.
Hydroplaning is a thing. No matter, like even if your reaction time is super good, hydroplaning is a thing.
Yeah, no amount of vampire reflexes are going to save you from like skidding out in a giant puddle and smashing into a tree and killing your squishy new girlfriend who is made out of meat and bones, and you're made out of rock.
I guarantee you, if the car went careening and like crashed, like he would just super fast like pull them out,
probably, yeah.
And then the car would just be like, well,
nope, Volvo's gone, I gotta go get another really fast car. So anyway, Bella asks him to slow down, and he's like, I don't have to do that, I've got vampire reflexes. And she's like, can you please slow down, this is way too fast and I am scared.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, and then he does. And I just want to say, if you're in a car with someone and they are driving in an unsafe manner and you ask them to perhaps calm down and they get shitty at you about it, don't be in the car with them anymore. They don't have your best interest at heart. They don't care about your safety, and you shouldn't be near them.
Yeah. Also, if earlier that night they told you that they can read minds, that person is a dangerous person to be around and is probably on meth.
Yeah. Don't be near them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
Hannah, I can read minds. Now let's get in the car. I'm gonna drive 120 miles per hour.
I don't think I'll be doing that. Thank you. So anyway,
definitely not a vampire though.
So Edward and Bella talk about how they're in love and the tension that comes with that because he wants to kill her. He's a vampire. And then there's just a lot of words for a while. Like there isn't plot. There's just words that happen. So this is going to be the first part of a 2-part episode where I talk about Twilight for a real long time.
We will come back and do part 2 of this Twilight episode of My Thing, Your Thing.
I will have many more things to say about Twilight and more quotes from this stupid book that is not well written.
No.
And I've said it before at the top, and I'm going to say it again now. I don't think you're stupid if you like Twilight. It's okay to like Twilight. I don't think you're stupid if you like... There are other books that I consider to be books that I don't understand, but I desperately want to. Or books that I don't like, but I desperately want to understand.
Yeah.
And I'll probably end up reading more of them for this at some point in the future, although I might take a break from books because this is a lot. But like, I read the first ACOTAR, A Court of Thorn and Roses, and I didn't particularly like it. I didn't hate it like I hated Twilight, but I didn't like it very much. I didn't think it's very good. But I'm if people want to send me books, I'll read them. I'm drawing a hard line. I'm not doing 50 Shades of Grey. I read them once. I'm not doing them again.
One last thing before we go. On the topic of people who were in Twilight, Hannah and I saw Mickey 17 last night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson. It was good. He was good. He was very funny. He did a good job delineating between Mickey 17 and Mickey 18.
Yes. I thought that was a lot of fun. If you like weird sci-fi that's like kind of funny, kind of sad, very existential, definitely worth the watch.
If you had seen Bong Joon-ho's other movie, Snowpiercer, and you're like, this would be great if it was a little bit funnier, then Mickey 17 is the movie for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Any dang way, we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back. And for us, it will only be a couple of minutes, and for you, it will be, I don't know, we don't have an upload schedule set.
Not yet. Anyway, I'm Donovan.
I'm Hannah.
And we'll see you next time.
Toodles. Thanks for listening. You can find us at mythingyourthing.com or at mythingyourthingpod on social media. Thanks to RK Maroon for letting us use their song Macaroni Art from the EP You Can't Eat Horses. You can get it at rkmaroon.bandcamp.com. If you have a thing you think we should talk about, email us at mythingyourthingpod@gmail.com, and maybe that could be our thing.